Hello everybody, welcome to the class today. I'm Nolan Clark, and in this class we're going to be painting a kingfisher on a textured canvas. So this is part one of a two-part class. So in this class we'll be building up the textures on the canvas. So follow along as I show you step by step how to do that. Alrighty, so I'm working on a 16 by 12 inch canvas today. So if you are a patron, you can go and download the reference material. There's the reference photo. I've gridded that up for you so that you can go and redraw it. And there's also just a sketch template. And then there's a tiled reference photo and a tiled sketch template as well. So what I have done is I've taken this and then I've used some pen carbon and just a little scribe, and I've transferred the outlines of the bird onto the canvas. So at this stage, that's what that looks like. So what we're going to do today is we're going to build up the texture of this bird so that it stands up nice off the canvas. And then you'll obviously now needs to dry out, and then that'll make it nice and hard and allow us to paint on top of that. So then you'll have not just the beautiful shadings from the paint, but you'll have this 3D effect. And I promise you, when people see paintings like this, they are always absolutely wowed by it. So the first thing that we obviously need to do is go and learn just a little bit about the texture paste itself. So I think let's move up and let's go to here. So I don't use the texture paste or the modeling paste that you get in the art store. What I use is pretty much the same thing. In actual fact, it's from the hardware store and it's much harder. So this is called just a pre-mixed wall filler. So it's actually used for sorting out and filling cracks inside your wall. So I think this is just a local brand, so you couldn't look out for the sellies, but it's you call any kind of a perma filler or wall filler will do the trick. I think the most popular brand is called Polyfiller. So that comes in two different varieties. You get it in a powder form, then you add water to it, or you get the pre-mixed one. So if you go to the hardware store by the painting section, this is where you're going to find the filler. So Susan is wondering if this is not being archival. I can promise you I've been using this for 20 years already, and I haven't had a problem yet. It goes absolutely rock hard. You can literally throw your painting and nothing will happen to it. So yeah, as far as archival is concerned, I couldn't vouch for 100 years, but I can definitely vouch for 20 years. So I hope that clears anything up, Susan. Once the stuff dries, it's literally like a rock. It doesn't crack, it doesn't move, it doesn't come off your canvas for no money. And yeah, painting over it, no problem whatsoever. So because you get different brands, you're just going to have to play around with what is available by you locally. I like to get the one that is like a grey color like this. So let me see if I can zoom in on that, just to show you a nice close-up view of that. So I think let's go to around there. So it's a very smooth texture. It's literally like mud. But if you hold it in your fingers and you roll it like this, it's got that slight little bit of a grainy texture to it. So there is definitely some kind of a sand or something in there. So you're going to have to just test drive and see which one of your local brands work good. I have had some of them that don't work as well. So you want to get the grey one. You get yellow, and I've seen pink ones and stuff as well. I don't find those ones work as well. So you're looking for the grey one. Now what's really cool about this is you can see it's beautifully soft and pliable. So I can mold this into absolutely any shape I want to. And I can use different tools inside here. So I can smooth it out. I can use water, so I always have a little tub of water with me as well. So I dip my finger, if I'm looking for something really smooth, I'll dip my finger in there and I can gently rub it over the surface, and I tell you, it gives you absolutely perfectly smooth surface. And then from there you can obviously now work little designs into it. So this is just a little, let me just roll that guy over because he's now got water on the one side, so you're not, as soon as I make a texture, the little bit of water that's lying there rolls into it. So you can now take any tool and work in little textures and things into there. We put a light to the side, you can see that better. Can you see there? So I use a little old dried pens. I use my painting knife. I'll often use brushes like this. So with a brush, you can either use a hard brush, or you can wet the brush, and that gives you nice smooth edges and stuff on these shadings of yours and all these textures of yours. Then I even use something like this. So this is a it's a mechanical pencil, but I've replaced the tip with a pin. So let's smooth that out. So Pat Mann is asking if it can be used on the acrylic paper. You can, but I don't recommend it. I because it needs a surface to a hard surface to adhere to. Alright, so let's just take this pin and look there. I can get beautiful, super thin details into the texture paste. So that's pretty cool, eh? Alright, so Mary's asking, how do you get it to stick to the canvas? Well, let's go and do that and see how you do it. Yeah, so I think let's go to over here. So the big thing with this texture paste is it dries out. And when it does, it becomes rock hard. So what you want to do is keep your tub closed at all times. So what I've actually got is I've got a palette here on the side. So I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to scoop it out. You can scoop out a fair amount at a time. Let's say a good old handful like this. And I'm going to pop it next to me over here on the pallet. The pallet is just to keep the table and stuff clean. No other reason. And then you'll see this has got like a little plastic cover. Also just to help keep out any air. So I push that down and keep that flush. And I close and seal the lid every single time. It's a bit of a schlep. Pain, but what can you do? And that way, this the texture paste that's inside your tub stays nice and fresh for ages. Yeah, so I think let's stay wide there for a minute. Now, you can start anywhere on the bird. I'm going to start on the beak, and I'm going to work my way down, simply because then I can work from the top and down, and I don't need to keep trying to avoid areas that I've built up nice and neat over here while I'm working over there. Because it does stay pliable for quite a while. So there's plenty of working time. You don't need to rush when you're working with it. So to get it to stick to the canvas, let's just go there. You can see the outlines over there. I'm going to take just a little bit of it at a time. So I'm going to do that beak now. So I'm going to take just enough. And I'm going to estimate what I need in my hand before I go ahead. Say probably something like this. And now it does take a tiny bit of coaxing to get it to stick to the canvas. So the quickest way I found of doing it is take just another little bit like this and a knife and just sort of rub it into the canvas a little bit. And then you'll see at a point it just takes. It doesn't take long. It's just a few little strokes like this, and then before you know it, it takes. And once it does take, then it's fine. Now you can start working with it, and it will adhere, no problem. Alright, so now to build this up, I'm going to start off just adding a little layer down here, and I'm going to just try and judge how high do I want this guy built up off the canvas in the end of the day. If I take a look at the reference, let's just use the photo for a second. If I look at the reference, what you want to do is you need to think a little bit 3D now. In the end of the day, this here is closest to you on the body. That's curling away from you, and then it comes up a little bit for the face. The eye stands up a little bit, and this gets thinner and narrower to here. So this isn't standing up further than that, but it's not standing up as much as this. So you need to give yourself enough height so that in the end of the day, this and that over there are the highest off the canvas. So let's pop that guy down there. So what I'll do is I'm going to just put this down as best I can. And now I'm going to take my knife, because I now need to get that outside edge correct. So I'm going to take my knife and I'm cutting off just little slivers of it. Can you see there? Just little slivers at a time. Until I can see my actual sketch line over there. I'm going to do the same on the other side. So it's a little bit shorter than that sketch line. And then I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to cut any excess off, any height excess that I don't want. Like that. So can you see, I can now still see those lines of mine, because this, the beak needs to stand like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my knife, my painting knife, and I'm going to estimate where that center line is, and I'll give myself just a little bit of a dent in there like that. Now I'm going to take the whole knife and just shape this. And look what's happening. It's not just smoothing out. Now I'm getting that 3D of where the beak curls away from you. Any extras like this, I'm going to just take it like here, because it's still nice and fresh, and I'll just add it back into the pile for now. If I feel it's starting to get a bit hard, then I won't. Then I'll leave it. So it's a very gentle like that. Not pressing hard or anything. As I go, I keep scraping up any extras that are off the edge. So I'll keep working it till eventually I have the exact shape and it's exactly on the line. Nice soft textures, or nice soft movements like that. Okay, the top of the beak is just as smooth. So let's use our knife and smooth him out. And as you smooth it out, obviously it goes past the line. So you keep coming back, just working yourself back till you can see the line again. So obviously everything that's gone over the line is excess. You don't need that. Alrighty, so there's one beak done. So now you do have that little bit of an overlap over there, where the top and the bottom beak meet. So I'm just going to press here like this, just to get an indentation over there. And that's going to indicate that. Cool, let's move down. So here we've got lots of different color changes and stuff, eh? So I'm going to build this up in just little pieces. So I can see here it's lower there. Can you see that little black area? And then it comes up and curls around. So I'm just going to concentrate on building that little top forehead piece. So I'll take just a little bit of texture paste. Rub it on here until I can see it takes. So if you do want to be proactive, you can do the whole bird like this, just to get that whole area covered, because you should still be able to see your lines through it. It's such a super thin layer of paste that you are putting down there now. So I usually do just an area at a time. And what's cool about this is you don't have to work everything in one session. If you do need to leave or whatever, you can just stop and come back and carry on at a later stage, no problem. So Mary's asking, is there gesso on the canvas? This is just a standard canvas I've bought at the store. So yes, it does have a gesso layer on it, but it's been done in the factory. I didn't add my own layer of gesso on here. Okay, so that whole head area there has now been, and you can see there's a slight color change, eh? So you know where you've been, and it's super thin. There's no height to that whatsoever. Alright, so let's just take a little bit of this. And now this next height, I'm going to judge it according to the height that I've got there. Is this piece that I'm doing now, is it higher than the beak or not? Does it stand out further or not? I think it stands out roughly the same amount. So I'm going to take that over there and just coax him into place very gently. And I'm checking his height. If he's too high, then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread this out. Until his height is correct. Okay, let's pick out this. I want to make sure we can see that there where the eye is. Because here we've got just like a little bit of a eyebrow here by the bird. And then here we've got that where that meets the beak. So I'm just gently tapping that until it meets the beak. And I'll keep this here at the edge. Hi Carla, welcome. Alright, so can you see it's higher here? And then it seems to sort of go a little bit flatter towards the back. So I'm going to just taper off on that height here towards the back. So let's just squeeze that down there. And I'm not scared to go over the line. And I'm just going to gently bring these guys together. So I'm rubbing over there with a super soft touch. Because what I want is these guys to join up, and you can't see where they join. So I'm gently rubbing over there until the height of this one and the height of that one are the same. Okay, so let's gradually build that. Scrape this back until we can see our line. And once you can, just flatten it out. And in that flattening process, just to get rid of that little ridge that you've got, will get you onto the line. Alrighty, let's continue over here. Let's build up that area around the eye. So now remember, it's high over here, it goes lower, and then it comes out. So let me just make... So I'm going to shape this until he's roughly that shape over there. And that saves me some shaping when I've got it here on the canvas. So the first task is make sure that this guy is sticking. If he's not sticking, then just work him until he does. And that would go for whether you're using this or whether you're using the texture paste that you buy at the yard store. Alright, so what happens here is the beak is extending in a little bit further past that area over there, and that's giving you that little dent. So I'm just very gently coaxing that shape over there like that. So I'm pushing that down. That's almost to the height of the canvas. Getting this very gentle, get it to match the beak, so that it sort of just becomes like an extension of the beak. Then here, this little eyebrow, or what do you call it, this little area here underneath the eye is also flat. So I'm working him, the sort of a cheekbone over there. And as I do, look what I'm doing, I'm gradually pushing this back so that I can see my circle for the eye. And as I do, I'm also gradually bringing this around to meet this back piece over here. I always want to see my lines, because if you don't see your lines, you tend to go further and further and further and skewer and skewer and skewer away from where you need to be. So sometimes you'll find that you're maybe like here, I've joined over there, but I don't have the height that I need. There's not enough of texture paste over here to match that height. So I'm just going to take some more. And what you can do is just dip your finger in the water and just add a little bit of water onto this, and it just makes it sticky. And then it will adhere to the other, the paste that's already there. And as before, you just gently work it until the line where the meat disappears, so that you get a nice smooth continuous join. Just very gentle with a knife, just go over, rub to the one side, then run back to the other side, and before you know it, that little join is perfect, absolutely the way it should be. Alrighty, so we've built up this nice little area around the eye, and we've left that eye open. So we've got an eyebrow, we've got the cheekbone over here. So now I'm going to add that eye in. So let's do this. I'm going to take some texture paste and just roll it into a little ball like this. Now you can see the texture paste is gradually sticking to my fingers. So every now and again you do need to just wash your hands. And that's why I said you need to get yourself just a tub of water. Okay, so I've got a little ball over there. And I've also got a cloth. I've got a cloth here, which sometimes I'll just quickly wipe my hands off on the cloth. Because you find if your hands are too dirty, then the texture paste tends to stick to your hands. And then you don't get these nice smooth shadings and stuff that you're looking for. Also, let's go to here. As you're working, you've got all these little crumbs. So what happens with them is they now dry out quite quickly because they're small, right? So I just every now and again, I'll mop them up and throw them in the bin. Jeff says, what a beautiful dinosaur. It does kind of look like a dinosaur at the moment, doesn't it? Alright, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to just gradually coax, because he's now in a ball. But I don't need a ball, I just need like a dome shape. So now I'm going to take just a really soft paintbrush. Just one of these guys. Because you don't want to change the shape too much. You just want to coax this guy down until he's stuck to the canvas, and B is meeting all the areas around it correctly. So it's a very soft action, this. Okay, so he's in. I'm happy with his shape, so now I'm just making sure I still have that little eyebrow over there, that little distance that you've got, that you can see on the photo. And a nice way to check yourself is I'll take my phone and I'll switch it onto torch. And then you can hold it to the side, and then you can see where have you got little imperfections. Where have you got those little bits that are rough or not quite meeting each other, and so on. And I'll usually do this with a torch after a few minutes. So I won't do it instantly. I'll leave this texture paste just to firm up that little bit on me before I go ahead and check that. And that's why, I don't know why, it's just, it seems to smooth out better after it's had a few minutes just to do its thing. Just to firm up on its own. Alrighty, so our face is coming along quite nicely already, eh? So let's continue, let's build up, let's say this area over here. Let's continue with the blue area. And I'll work with areas that I look for what's underneath and then put on what's over it. For example, this feather over here overlaps that one. So I've got to do this guy first to get that little overlapping there. And then that just does it more naturally. Alright, so first things first, let's just get some texture paste down there that is gripping. Get up to the line so I can still see my line. It also looks like a penguin still at the moment, eh? Alrighty, so let's now put this down. So I'm just finding my shape. So look what happens. Here, I need to get this to tie in and become one smooth shading over there. And then it gradually curls down and becomes smoother towards the back there like that. So instantly I know I've got way too much height. So I'm going to use that to my advantage by just pushing this guy down until he meets the previous height. So I'm just spreading him until I've got a match over there. And that's already got rid of quite a bit of excess texture paste. Here I'm going to just coax it in to the same height as that over there. In other words, you want to rather start a little bit too high. It's easy to chop it back and flatten it out. But it's not quite so easy to build it up again. So what I do often find is maybe I'll come back the next day and I'll find I haven't built this up quite as much as what I wanted to or so on. Then it's fine. Then everything is all dry. And you can build straight up over this. So if you're not happy with something, you can build over it. And you can sand it. You can grind it. You can use chisels and files on this. Alrighty, so look what's happening here. As he comes down and he's meeting these orange ones, it's dipping in. So now I'm going to bring this guy down to give me that nice even little dipping in effect. And that's now going to give me that neck, lower neck bit, and that's going to allow me to build up again for the body itself. I must admit, I really, really enjoy doing this, which is quite ironic. I should actually try sculpting, seeing as I do enjoy this so much. Also, keep your knife clean. So you can use your cloth or even just a piece of paper towel. Just wipe it clean because it needs to be nice and smooth to get nice smoothings. If you've got lots of the texture paste that's built up on there, it starts scratching your texture paste. So then you never get nice smooth textures and stuff. Alright, so let's make sure we can see this line over here. So let's work all this away. Because you'd be amazed, that little line of yours will go on a walkabout really quickly. So I'm just scratching it back until I can see where that mark is. You see how much I'm having to take away? Tons of it. Tons. To make sure I'm on the line. There we go. Now I can see my line over there. So Jeff is asking, what can you use to paint over this when you're done? You can use oil paint, or you can use acrylic paint. Those are the two guys that I usually use. Either of them work equally well. No problems whatsoever. Alright, so now that I can see my line, now I've also got a better judgment of my height. Do I need to go higher, or do I need to build it up a bit more? So at this point, I think I'm pretty happy there. So I've got it lowered down here towards the back of the neck and the back of the body over here. Hi Max, welcome. Just working that down there right up to that line. And I'm also just trying to judge how much does this curl? Is it a slow curl or is it a quick one? So that I can get that curvature roughly the same. Because remember now, this is going to form its own highlights and shadows. That's the whole idea with building up the texture like this. You've got a full 3D effect on this. So your texture paste is forming its own highlights, its own shadows. And then you're still coming in with your paint and you're adding color highlights and shadows. And that's what makes it really cool. Because now you've got that double 3D effect. Okay, so I'm just bringing that over there. So I'm pretty happy with that. So now can you see what's happened? We've got the blue and now we've got the orange area over here. So before I go too far, what I'm going to do is, let me use the torch again. Just so you can see it, because I'm going to make it reasonably, not too full, or not too deep, sorry, too full, too deep. And I'm going to just estimate these little shapes. So there's the white. So what you can do, if you are now scared that you're not going to be able to estimate these things correctly, is let me get some tracing paper, and you can use that. So I'm just grabbing some of that out of the cupboard. So you can take your tracing paper and let's get something to draw with. And you can just give yourself a few outline marks that you've transferred over here. And then all these guys that are going to sort of disappear on you, or could disappear on you, you can quickly transfer them over like that. So now what you can do with the tracing paper is you can just gently lay it over there. And then you look at it from the top. So all you're trying to do is just line up your major features like that. Then what you do is you can hold your pen or your whatever that you using to indent. Hold it over that spot, take away the tracing paper, and there you go. Now you can see and visualize that mark or that area that you're working on. So that's that over there. And that's all you need to do for now. You'll leave that. Once this guy is set up a little bit, is a little bit harder, then we'll work better textures into that. Alright, let's continue on over here. Alright, so first things first, let's make sure our texture paste is going to stick. Yeah, there we go, that's great. Alright, so again I'm looking for the shapes and the dimensions. I can see here it's flatter over here, and it comes higher up to here, or closer to me over here. So I'm going to start him thin up against that beak. We'll give him a slight little bit of an edge by the beak, just to separate the beak, as though the beak is going in underneath, and this is popping out like a billy goat in that area over there. And then we'll gradually build this guy up until he comes slightly higher than what we did before, so that we can get that distinct little line and overlap over there. Morton is asking a very good question. How much time should you allow for the paste to dry completely? That depends on mostly how thick you've worked your paste. The thicker it is, the longer it's going to take to dry. And then obviously, is it summer? Is it winter? That's also going to make a difference. The best advice I can give you, well, let's start off with a ballpark figure. Then at least you've got some idea in your head. It could easily take 3 to 4 days if you've built it up to, let's say, a half an inch or a centimeter or more, to get the fully dry. Because what happens is it forms a bit of a film. Well, it obviously now air dries, so it starts from the outside and then gradually dries towards the inside. So as the top dries, it's now harder. It's not so easy for the inside ones to dry out. They tend to remain soft and wet because it's got that skin. So what I do is I feel it very gentle, and I can feel, does it have a nice skin on it? Yeah, okay, then I know it's still very wet on the inside. Does it have a crust on it? Can I feel it like a top of a bread crust? Then I know it's better. And eventually you'll feel, if it's got a crust, you can feel it's hard, but if I press hard, it's going to dent. So that's not where you want to be yet. when you feel, oh, you know what, I can press this quite hard. It may be a little bit wet on the inside, but I can press really hard on this. And I can actually use tools and sand and stuff on the outside. When you feel that, then you know you're okay. You can continue working on it. Alright, so I'm working this out and I'm making sure I'm getting just that little bit of a height over there like that. Because we do now want to get that overlapping feather effect. Okay, so I'm just chipping out that excess over there. Just like that. So that we've got, can you see there's like a little bit of a dent there in that little dark area. Sue, yes, just bookmark this link and you can come straight back to it. Or you can also click the watch later. And then that'll be on your watch later list if you do need to leave. Alright, so I'm just building up that shape over there. I think you probably go out a little bit further over there. So I do need to just add a little bit, add little bits and bits at a time. So I need to get those guys to join. Dip my finger in the water. Just tap it onto here. So that you've got that little bit of water. It's just a tiny amount, not a lot. But it just helps those guys to sort of stick to each other. Okay, then I'm going to work these guys so that they meet seamlessly by rubbing over it like that until that difference in height disappears on me. Awesome. So what I'm looking at now is just that rounding formed by the feather, and I'm just trying to get that same shape and angle. There, like that. See there, I've still got a nice little ridge there where that new piece didn't meet. So now I need to work over that until that ridge disappears and they join each other seamlessly. Yeah, that should be fine. Okay, so we've got that little bit of a height there now. So Tracy's asking, can you use a hairdryer to make it dry quicker? You can, absolutely. Okay, so my knife is now getting a bit dirty and it's not... I can't wipe it off anymore. The texture paste on here has dried too much. So I'm actually going to dip it in my water and then use my cloth. In other words, I'm washing him with the water. Because this stuff is technically still wet, it washes off super easy. And while I'm at it, I'll give my fingers a quick clean as well. So while I'm doing that, before we continue, I want to briefly tell you about my real-time paint and draw along art classes on my website. For a very small amount, you can get access to over 400 paint and draw along tutorials where you pack out your art supplies and you follow along as I show and explain to you in step-by-step detail how to complete each project. There are classes in acrylic, oil, watercolor, pencil, soft pastel, and even lesser known mediums like pen and ink and scratchboarding. There's a link in the description below. Take a look. You'll be amazed at the awesome classes available there. Alrighty, let's continue from where we left off. So there's my website address if you do want to go and take a look over there. So Padmini is asking, if you do use a hairdryer, won't the top layer dry and then the bottom layer, because it's drying slower, cause cracks? I haven't experienced that. I do sometimes find that when it initially dries, it may form a crack, especially if you've done it quite thick and now you've moved your canvas and then it's shifted a little bit on the inside. Then it may form a crack. Then what happens is you just fill that crack up again. Alright, so this here is now pretty much as complete as we can for now. So let's go ahead and continue with the body. That should go quite quick. I think this is our hard part on that. So let's go wider there. And we'll do the body. So the body, I'm going to do this. Can you see this is lower than that? Because you've got this wing overlaps this guy. So I'm going to start off. Just take some of this and let's get it sticking to the canvas. Right, so I'm going to do this section here first. And now we can be generous with our height as well, because this is now the body bit. So that area there is going to stand up the most out of everything. Violet is saying, I'm wondering if a fine mist spray bottle to water, it would help if you're a bit slow working with it. No, I don't recommend that, and I'm going to tell you why. When you mist it like that, it forms like a quite slippery little, the top portion. And then also you've got that little bit of water. Okay, so now can you see I've picked up new texture paste. So instantly I'm going to just reset all this so that it's nice and flat in there. Cover it and make sure that's nice and flush, and seal my tub so that stays nice and dry. So now you've got that little bit of water is laying on the surface of your texture paste, and what it does is it conceals, it hides all your little imperfections. It looks smooth, but it's not. So now I don't recommend that. Only use the water on the surface if you're doing that final smoothing. That's the only time you'd want to use that. Or like there when I was joining, that will also do. Alright, so take a look and see what I'm doing. I'm bringing it low here, higher up here, and then I'm flattening him back out again over there. And this is all just these body feather areas. So I can go quite low here, pretty much back to canvas height. Alright, so it's way too high than what it should be. Way too high. So what I'm going to do is now I need to sort of sculpt this to get it to the correct size. So I think, give me a second, I'm going to reset this other camera of ours. Then I can zoom in a little bit closer for us. That'll give you a better view of this area. that's better, eh? Alright, so first things first, we need to get this to tie in with that over there. So I'm going to just gently coax those guys into each other. So I've got to get this one's height to match that one. So I'll bring that in. This one's height, there isn't too much of a difference over there. There's just a little bit of a dent. So instantly, by doing that, it's sort of automatically correcting this height over here because I'm having to change the height to get all these guys here to match. So that's going to come out in the end of the day there like that. So I think we can almost do this and that in one piece because it does seem to be one smooth join. Let's get him to take. You're welcome, Danielle. I'm glad you're enjoying that. Okay, so let's get that guy to match there. And become one. And you know what? In this case, I think I'm happy with that extra little, where these two join, and you've got that little bit of a join line, because we've got that difference in color on the hairs over there. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to use that little join as my guide, like we did it further up on the head with the different colors. I'm going to use that little line there as my guide for where do these colors change. Alright, so now here, that orange or the yellow and the brown meet absolutely seamlessly. So how am I going to know where they change? By this guy here is in a dip. So there's a height difference. So I'm just going to bring them together so that they join in a perfect smooth join. So just very gently rub it over there. You can use your finger, you can use the knife. And you can even use stuff like the handle of your brush to smooth these guys into each other. This way and that way and this way and that way until eventually they do meet. There's just a little bit of a dent over there. He's not going away, so I'm taking a tiny amount, rolling it up into a little length, and I'm going to pop that down there just to, because there's not enough texture paste to complete the bridge over there. That little bit of extra is all we needed. Does the belly of the bird need to be a little bit flatter than the wing to get the overlap? Yes, it sure does. It sure does. Alright, so now those two meet nice in a nice little smooth join over there. Let's complete this over here. So can you see I'm maintaining this little dent that's over there, where these blue feathers and those orange feathers join. I'm leaving that little dent over there because that's going to add its own little shadow over there, you see. Same thing happens over there. And now this guy, he joins over there. But now look really carefully. Here it's perfectly smooth. So I can use my knife and everything and get a nice smooth transition there. Here it goes in a little bit like that. So I'm happy for there to be that. It goes gradually just how would you put it, shallower and shallower until he disappears over there. So just like that, I've got myself an extra bit of height. Okay, here we need to find out where does this and the wing itself meet. So I'm going to scratch all that back until I meet my line. There's my line. That's awesome. The same thing needs to happen over here. Okay, there's those feather marks. Where does he end? Aha, slowly starting to see it. Cool. Sometimes you start panicking because now you think, oh, did I maybe not draw that line in? You're scratching so far back. But it's just that the lines drift so quickly, so quickly. And that's why you have to keep scratching and making sure you find your lines. Because otherwise you find this, your bird or whatever you're doing gradually becomes so out of proportion. It's unreal, it's unrecognizable. Then it does look like a dinosaur instead of a kingfisher. Alright, so I'm getting this little edge right over there. So to get that curling away effect, that the bird's curling away from us, I'm gradually making it thinner and thinner here towards that edge. And that just shows a rounding. So eventually your height is all gone over there. And that gives you a nice little stomach over there. And then from here he's going to start flattening out again, because now we need to get less height for the wing to overlap. So I'm actually going to cut into that and just peel that whole section away there. Awesome. Okay, I'm going to everything is beautifully smooth there. I'm not seeing any crazy textures or anything yet, or humps or bumps or nothing. It's a nice smooth. I specifically chose this picture because it's a nice easy starter textures to work from. And that'll get you going and get you confident with a texture paste quickly. Alrighty, so let's bring this here nicely up to that line. So can you see what I'm doing? I'm slanting him down like that. I haven't done it. Welcome. This edge over here, I think I'm also going to just curl him in nice and gradual. And as I do all these things, this height here itself has gradually, how how would I put it? He's sorted himself out. Okay, let's make sure we can see our line. You always want to see your lines. So if you can see your line, you know you're not off. If you can't see your line, you don't know how far you're off. Okay, so I'm just making sure I'm getting myself right up to perfectly against the line on all these little places over here. Yeah, there we go. That looks good. Alrighty. So here at the back, what you want to do is go to nearly the height of the canvas, but not quite the height of the canvas. And that'll give us just a little bit of texture left, or texture height left for the tail. Great, so this guy comes down over here. He's lower here. But then you've got this one little feather that does his own thing over there. So I'm going to leave myself a little bit of a height for him so that I can build him up as well. Alrighty, so that's as far as we can go with that guy over there. That there's all nice and smooth and a nice join. And we've still got our little line that we can see over there, so that's, I'm happy with that. Let's take quite a fair amount now. I'm even going to roll it up into a ball. Because what I wanted to do is I wanted to sort of just plop in there, and then we'll shape him downwards like that. So we'll probably need a little bit more paste. So I'll be proactive and get another little handful there. Let's add it to this. Okay, so I'm looking for that rounding over there. And then we can bring him, he comes up for that wing, and then he gradually comes down and it tucks in underneath that guy over there. So I'm just roughly shaping it. With my hand. And now I can go back to the knife. And now let's here, it tucks in underneath those feathers over there. So I'm going to physically tuck this paste in underneath that. As it does, that over there, they meet. And same as on the front, I'm rounding this off to that edge over there to get a nice smooth edge and a taper over there. Okay, let's take a look. There's a little bit too much height, so I'm just going to cut that off like that. Let's see here, I can still tuck that in there as well. And I can tuck this in over here as well. I think that's fine. There's a nice little ridge over there in those guys. Let's bring this around. And as I smooth this out, I'm also just adjusting his height. Just so that I can see he's roughly about the correct height. You don't want this now to suddenly be much higher than the rest, because then it won't make sense. It's got to be in proportion to all the other heights. Okay, so he comes to there. This guy comes to there. And here's a nice little, almost a straight line over here. So I'm going to bring these guys towards each other, like that. Smoothing it out as I go. Okay, so can you see we've got a beautiful little overlap over there on this wing. And that's what we're looking for. In actual fact, I'll take my knife and I'll actually tuck in underneath there. Tuck in underneath and lift up ever so slightly to get height. So that you can physically see that this wing is higher than the body itself. And if necessary, just rub over the body to get that in underneath too. That you can also do. Can you see that lovely height we've got there now? Alright, then from here it becomes, it seems to be around this vicinity. So those little shorter wing feathers become longer ones over here. Okay, so let's get the end. Make sure we can see our lines. So often as you do this, you have to go at all sorts of, look at the canvas from all sorts of random angles to make sure you can see your lines. There we go. There's that edge there. Now we sorted. Cool bananas. So I'm making this curl in a little bit further, a little bit sharper. So it almost comes up and then around. And that'll also just help us get that whole effect to the back. Because the back now does have some height to it. Yeah, cool. So there we've got all that. There isn't a big height difference over there. I just added that little line in there to show you. So I'm just gently smoothing that back out again. Let's bring this around. And now we can start working on these loose little tail feathers and that guy that's overlapping that over there. So now physically build that little feather there. So I'm looking for his shape, just roughly. Something along that line over there. And I'm checking his height. It isn't too dramatic, so I'll keep him reasonably thin. And let's put him in place. So he comes there. Just coax him into a shape. There we go. Right, now we can get this guy to merge. So I'm going to take him and I'm tucking him in underneath the wing. So that we can see that he comes out from underneath the wing. And here I'm giving myself a little bit of extra height over here, because he does lift up above this guy. And as I do, I can now smooth this guy out. So that's one nice continuous sort of angle change over there. Okay, so that guy tucks in underneath here, that feather, and now this feather is going to come out like this, and he's going to curl out over there like that. So we'll carve out all the feather details over there. Hi Abu, welcome. Okay, let's stand back and see where we're at while I adjust the other camera. Let's go to there. Okay, so you can see our bird is taking shape quite nicely now. Fabulous. Let's go there. Let's tackle that last little bit of tail, the legs and stuff. So there's quite a lot of loose bits floating around here at the moment. So I'm just taking my knife and I'm literally just scraping them up, getting them out the way. Because we're now at a point where some of these little bits are actually dry. And they stuck to the canvas. So you physically have to scrape them off. Awesome. And look at the knife. Look how dirty the knife is. Look at that. As we've been building up, it just gradually sticks to it. So I'm going to give him and my hands a wash again. That way we remain working with nice clean utensils. Fingers included. The best utensils in the world, eh? So otherwise things just get more cloggy and built up and stuff, and you just never get these nice smooth shadings and gradings that you're looking for. Fantastic. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we'll just build the tail, and then this top bit on the head should be dry enough for us to add some textures into it. Then we'll do we don't have to try and avoid this while we're doing all that texture work. So we don't need much, just a little bit. It's quite low and flat, that last piece over there. So let's get him to stick. But there are a few little angle changes that we do need to take care of over here, because we've got a bit of tail and a bit of back wing that you can see. Okay, so that's all sticking over there. So I'm going to start just with that little back wing that's sticking out over here. So I'll put down some height. It's not much, just a little bit. That's enough. And I'm going to just carefully get my line. We've got this back feather over there as well. Great. Okay, so that back feather stands up in the air. He stands up off the rest. So I think I'm going to actually physically make him stand up. So I'm going to add some more over there, just to add that height that's now missing. Like that. And I'm going to cut in underneath this guy in a wedge shape like that, underneath, so that there's physically space underneath here. And this is quite flat, so I think I'll use the knife, and I'm going to hold the knife up underneath here, so that's holding this up off the canvas. And I'm going to use just a brush, just a soft brush as a soft full bit, and that's going to just create that flat shape of those tail feathers over there, like that, or the wing feathers actually, just like that, there, and then carefully remove the knife. So there's height over there. It's not a ton, but still, it's enough for this to cast a shadow onto the canvas. Okay, here it's quite higgledy-piggledy over there, so I'm going to just take a little bit down there, add a bit extra, just to allow me to smooth all that out and fill in all those random little gaps and stuff that were over there. Cool. Right, so again, same as what we did over there. We've got a little bit of a overlap here between the body feathers and the tail feathers. So I'm cutting in underneath there. So that there's a physical height over there, a height difference And I'll bring this guy in. And I'm putting him at an angle like it's lower here and it's higher over there. So that this will tuck in underneath that little bit of tail feather over there. The blue tucks in under the brown, in other words. Yeah, I think I'll keep that edge there reasonably nice and straight and so on. That's fine. See you, Danielle. Thanks for joining us. And we'll do the same over here. There's just that little bit. So I'm going to put that down. Cut in underneath until I can see the line. And I'm just going to flatten him out towards the central bit. And towards the top. Right, now we can work in that tail bit. So let's get his shape. Roughly in the vicinity. Like that. And now we can just coax him in underneath all of that over there. So this is a little bit fiddly, so take your time with this. And as you can see, I've got way too much height over here, and that's fine. You rather have too much height, you can always cut it back. So there's all those little loose feathers over there. And now I'm going to gradually cut this height away. All that excess height that I don't need, I'm cutting him away. Awesome, nearly done with this. And then here's also just an extra little bit of another feather doing that over there. Also same height difference as we had here with the blue. So working him in with that same little angle trick. Like that. There we go, tail done. Alright, so let's do the torch check again to make sure you've got everything smooth the way it's supposed to be. Okay, that's fine, I'm happy with that. Fabulous. Let's get an overall view while I move the camera again. Okay, so what we're going to do now is create that feather texture inside this, and it's going to go quite quickly. It's really going to go quite quickly. What you're looking for is just any brush that's got quite a fine tip. I'll often use something like this because as you work, his hairs sort of spread and just give you that hair texture automatically. Or I'll use just a super fine liner like this. So now I'm going to use the torch, and I'm going to show you what happens. As you pull in like this, it's going to give you that texture. So this has gone quite dry already. So let me just try another brush so I can press a little bit harder. Can you see that? Yeah, I'm going to make sure this is all nice and smooth. So I'm just going to gently rub over that. And all I'm looking for is just areas where it's like really distinctly feathery texture. So if yours has now gone too dry and you're not getting this effect, the other thing you can use is maybe just like the end of a knife. Just use like a craft knife. You can also just very gently just pull in like this. Try a few different things to see what is giving you the texture that you're looking for. Now you don't need to get the texture super fine, because remember, at the end of the day, you still need to get paint into all these little grooves that you're making now. So I generally don't make it too fine. More often than not, just those few little strokes from the brush is enough. Another thing you can use is a bristle brush, and then you separate the bristles. So I'll finish this little piece, and then I'll do an area like that. What is important now is that you look at the directions of these feathers, so that all these little marks that you are adding in here are going in the correct direction. So it's not super prominent, but they're there. Right, let's grab, say, yeah, I think a bristle brush like this, not too small, will do. So you're going to take the hairs like this, and you're just going to spread them out like that. And now you can scratch into this as well. Now all these scratches are super gentle. Can you see that texture over there? So as you do this, you do get little pieces, crumbs that have come off, which you can just carefully either blow them away or just carefully wipe them away. Right, so what I'm going to do now is just go ahead here and just add some texture into all of this. Like I said, guys, it's not prominent, and you can't press hard, very soft. Okay, let's go to here. Okay, so over here we have some distinct little feathers and stuff that are overlapping over there. Mary suggesting a toothbrush. Yes, absolutely. Anything that's going to just rake in a few little textures for you. It's not a ton in that area over there, but it does make a difference, and it does show up in the final artwork. Right, let's go to here. So there we do now have some distinct overlapping feathers like that. So there I'm going to take the knife and I'm going to just drag in that feather texture over there. So look very carefully at your angles. Just little super light overlapping strokes like that. Can you see that? Super light. Don't get carried away too much. All you're trying to do is just break this hard, solid line that you've got over here now by adding texture into it. I'm just going to make that disappear by adding less and less and less as I go up, because those feathers are now all nice and soft further up there. There we go. See, now you've got an uneven join, you could say, over there. That there's all smooth. This is all smooth. So that we can just very lightly rub over it with this. Hardly making any difference, but still just adding little humps and bumps and so on into the paint. Same with over here. Or into the texture paste, sorry, not the paint. It just gives you those imperfections and stuff, so it's not you started off smooth, but it's feathers. It's not smooth. Each feather standing at its own little angle and so on. Okay, so let's go to that area over there. So let me just readjust the camera. So now it's back to the knife. So there's quite a bit happening here. Just do that. For a start, we've got these little tail feathers over there. So I'm going to just take just that thin edge of the craft knife, and I'm just going to indent the impression of those tail feathers. In over there like that. You see there? Here we need to cut in, same as what we did by the top of the wing. Cut in all these other feathers that are overlapping. So I'm cutting them out like this. So it's quite textured over here. Quite textured. And to make it uneven, I'm going to cut into it like this as well. So now we've really got ourselves a rough edge over there. And that's exactly what it is. Look how fluffy it looks there now. Don't forget to blow away all those little loose bits. Okay, let's take a look. There's also just different feather layers. So I'll just carve in little indentations there like that, and then round them off. And that'll make that look like individual feathers. Yeah, I'm happy with all that. Happy with all that. Right, I think we're done with that section there. So now we can go over to doing this tail, or the branch, sorry. Right, let's just go there. Let's see how can I line this guy up so that we can see everything all in one go. Yeah, let's go to there. Alrighty, so it's quite a big branch. We're going to need quite a bit of texture paste there. Are you keeping up? Or are you getting behind on your building? So let's see. So I'm just eyeballing how much paste I'm going to need for that. I think we can make that quite a good size. Why not? So to make this really stand up quite nicely, maybe we'll make him high over here and then just narrow him down to there, so that when we get to the edge there's no more height, and that's going to be perfect, because we need the edge to not have any height, otherwise you can have problems when you frame this guy. Let's close up that. And let's get this to stick. Awesome. Okay. So let's get him the right length. Put all the height on this side. So I'm going to try and do this reasonably quick because he's not the focal point. Okay, so it's taller here, and I'm getting it thinner and thinner and thinner towards the back. Just break off the bits that we don't need. And we want to get lots of texture into this wood. Is now broken, this branch is broken, and so on. So we'll start just by getting his shape right. Just make sure he's curling in underneath here on the sides, like that. Same over here, so make sure you can see your line all the way through. And I'm just dragging my knife over here the whole time. That's going to give me a nice textured wood effect. So you can decide now how rough you want this piece of wood. And as I'm doing it, I'm also putting it downwards so that at the end of the day, I'm getting rid of gradually some more and more and more of my texture paste here at the bottom, so that he's thinner and thinner and thinner as well. So what's happening is you're not dragging grooves into the wood, but now some of this is now stuck on your knife. So that's pulling up like little crumbs and stuff. And that's now really making this very, very rough. Awesome. So here at the bottom of your canvas, that last centimeter, half an inch, you don't want anything there, because that's where your frame is going to go. You can't have anything there. No height whatsoever. So you've got to taper it off to that point over there. Because that's the rebate inside your frame, that little distance there. So just make sure that's all gone. Alrighty, cool bananas. I'm going to clean my hands. Otherwise I can't touch the mouse to change the view. Yeah, there we go. Now I can touch stuff again. Let's stand back and let's see where we're at. Alrighty, so there's our Kingfisher. So the only thing we haven't done now is the legs. Oh yes, so we've got this lovely broken edge over there, eh? So all I'm going to do for that broken edge is I'm just going to dig my knife in there and just flick out a few little random pieces like that. And that will roughen up that edge of the wood. Just at different heights and lengths. There you go. Right, so for the legs, the back one, I'm just gonna make myself just a tiny little roll like that, and I'm estimating its size. We're not going to put in too much effort with the legs, simply because it's not something that you really look at. So we'll mostly just paint them in. We can get a little bit of height there, but not too much, nothing excessive. So I'm just rolling that, putting them down there in place very carefully, just chopping him to size. And we'll just make sure it gets stuck onto the body. And onto the wood. So you find the bird's legs are quite textured as well. So I'm also just dragging in a few little texture marks as I get this guy to join. Do the other leg. Or the foot. Yeah, foot and leg. I'll just gently coax him into place over there like that. Attach him to the body. And attach him here to the wood. And there's one toe. There's the other toes, so just join him up with the other guy over there, like that. And then it's got that one at the back. Those guys aren't apart, they're next to each other. So that's just a little shorty there at the back, maybe even that long, eh? He's just sort of out that vicinity there. Ah, what the heck. We may as well put that last little toe in over there. We've come so far already. We may as well do it, eh? You can see I'm not doing excessive effort to get all these shapes and stuff. 100%, it's fine. You're not looking at the toes, you're looking at the face of the bird when you're done. When this is finished and hanging up on the wall. Alrighty, so one last thing we need to do before we can call it a day on our texture work, and that is just all the way around. Go ahead and just make sure there's no little bits that are stuck to the canvas. Because once they're stuck, you battle to get them off. So do be careful as you do that. You obviously don't want to mess up all your hard work. There we go. So I hope you enjoyed that class today. So in the next class, what we'll do is we'll now leave this guy to dry for a week or two, and then we'll go and paint the rest. So look out for that next class, and then we'll add some beautiful paint and color to this painting, and when it's done, it's going to look absolutely incredible. Cheerio! Thanks for joining me in the class today.